This is the beautiful world where we are born, live, work and die. Our home is a living ball full of life, a tremendous variety of life on it. The complex atmosphere gives weather a life of its own, and ocean currents support abundant life there too. And there are people, and where there are many people, there are many views. The two views I will discuss symbolize the main conflicting parties which have polarized the debate about earthly concerns. Most people, including myself, will naturally support some points of both. Extremists, as always, can be dangerous. On the one hand, we have the Ancestor view. It is understood our ancestors influenced us and our world, and that we in turn will be the ancestors of many future generations, including some already around now. What we do now has tremendous impact on their world. In the Ancestor view, what is considered good is all the amazing life, the environment, mountains, animals, trees, the seas, and of course, the people in their infinite variety. Human ingenuity is cool if it supports the total variety of life itself. To enjoy, not to destroy. The other view I call the resource view. Its central tenet is conquering, exploiting, and changing the world to suit human needs and desires. Our acts demonstrate how powerful, clever, and exceptional we humans are. There's a desire to ever expand and grow and renew. Standing still is not an option. What a resourcer considers good is how cleverly we conquer the oceans with our ships, turn trees into buildings and packaging material, remove entire mountains with impressive machines to find coal, and have created luxury and shelter in a world which was out to get us. We converted resources into money, into power. The dislikes of these two views are also very different. The Ancestorites dislike toxic effluence, deforestation, and the damage done by moneyed corporations in control of our governments. The resourcers dislike any form of restriction which can limit the amount of wealth individuals can create for themselves through clever exploitation of Earth and its inhabitants. But we forget how small this tiny blue line of our atmosphere is. We emit so much that 200 lungfuls of fresh air we breathe comes straight from the exhausts of your cars or power stations. And that's only from this year's emissions. No wonder the IMF estimates the real cost of our emissions around the 5 trillion mark annually. These emissions play a crucial role in climate change, which is a story of small causes, large effects. Not like the butterfly effect maybe causing the tornado somewhere, but more like a match lighting the fuse of a bomb. A much greater certainty of something big going wrong once the fuse is up. Our emissions, mainly from burning carbon fuels, cause a little bit of warming of the atmosphere, currently between 1 and 2 degrees. This sounds small, but on a planetary scale, this is the largest temperature increase the system might be able to recover from. Exceeding this small amount of warming will result in severe water shortages, food shortages, the death of our oceans, and with it the source of much of our oxygen, and around 2 billion people displaced or dead in the short term of a couple of generations. 2 degrees is the point of no return. Luckily, scientists, governments, corporations, and most people agree this is a problem. But a small group of companies has invested in very big speakers and distorts this understanding. Of the world's 20 wealthiest companies, 7 are in the carbon business and the other 13 are banks. They like the status quo. Faced with this huge danger, Ancestorites say, let's act now with whatever skills and techniques we have, and if we're lucky we'll have some of our beautiful planet left in the end to pass on. The resourcers say, let's think about what we can do while we burn some more carbon and try to keep on making money. In the end, the Earth may be suffering, but at least some of us will be rich. How different these two views are is illustrated in this IPCC prognosis of global emissions. Business as usual emissions are still growing and will hit the 2-degree crash point by 2030. The other view wants to get to zero emissions by 2050, which will hopefully avert disaster. The Ancestorites argue, we, including future generations, can't live without food, water, and the oxygen created by our forests and oceans, so we need to do something about our emissions now. The basics of life are so overwhelmingly important and under such an obvious threat, the need to make a serious effort is no problem. The resources say we can't live without our stuff, our lifestyle, our disposable goods, and ever-growing economy, so we need to increase our emissions more while we consider any problems we may be causing, because a growing economy is what we really need to live. This young man, sifting for something of value through the prize of a recent flood, sifting through the garbage of his ancestors, sifting through the results of resource-driven economic growth. Is this really the path we want to take? Currently, the path is decided in the tents of power where governments converse with colleagues and lobbyist advisors. In the EU, 95% of this lobbying effort is from corporations, only 5% from the representatives of people, unions and NGOs. Is it a wonder the governments don't hear our views? But history shows the important changes come from people outside the tent. Each of you can write to MPs and ministers, petition in support of wind farms and reforestation, and against trade deals like TTIP. Altogether, we can make noise outside the tent of power, which will be pitched in Paris late November, when the UN will be negotiating climate change. Please consider joining us outside the tents of power, for example on the 28th, 29th of November, to voice the view that we'd like some of our beautiful Earth and home left for future generations, and that requires zero net emissions by 2050. It's high time to be heard.